Here again to bring you their best bets and expert picks for every game on this week's NFL schedule, it's the Green Men, brought to you by WSN.com.
Welcome to Week 15 of WSN's NFL Pick'em Show. My name is Adam Forsyth, joined as always by the stunningly good-looking Ryan Sullivan. This guy.
Hey, and welcome to Augusta, as we wear green on both sides for no reason. I don't know.
Because green is the color of cash, and that's what we're going for this week, because there is a great slate of NFL games. But before we get to this week's NFL picks, we got to kind of recap last week's picks. We have our best bets, our prop hits, everything, our failures, and there were several failures, unfortunately. So before we get to Week 15, let's look back at Week 14. My best bet of the week, guys, I blew it. And I blew it bad. I didn't blow it. Houston blew it. Houston, all they did was cover an 8-point spread against Denver, and I thought it was a must-win game for the Texans. They no-showed. It was even bigger blowout than the final result because Houston got a couple garbage time TDs. A rough game for me. My best bet record falls to 5-2 over the last 7 weeks, and I will bounce back this week.
Yeah, in the best bet category, I don't know what's going on here. This is 3 weeks in a row with losers. I bet on losers, as you saw with the Jets a few weeks ago. They lose. I bet on winners. The Seahawks, the hottest team, they lose. I've fallen, like I say, 3 weeks here. Seahawks were favored by 2.5 going into this game. They had all the momentum in the world behind them. The Rams, meanwhile, not so hot. And the Rams absolutely stomped them. They suffocated the Seahawks. It was a horrible game to watch. Even worse to sit through if they were your best bet, which they just so happened to be.
It wasn't all bad news for you, though. You had a couple of really nice prop bets that you cashed in on. What were some of them?
I did, yeah, absolutely. So, there's some nice, overs and unders mixed in there as well. But I put some dough down on Nick Chubb to top 100 yards. Boom. I liked Darius Slayton. That was a random choice, a little DFS there. But I wasn't the only one who liked Darius Slayton. Eli Manning apparently liked Darius Slayton as well. It was a beautiful thing, so it was very nice to see. But like you say, there were some misses as well mixed in there outside of Seattle, which trends showed that 63% of people were with me on the Seattle bet. Just throwing that out there. But the Oakland over Tennessee call, not the greatest. There were a few others mixed in as well. How about yourself? How else did you fare?
I blew that best bet, but I'm glad I nailed some really big props, and they did so with ease. The one that got me right away, just cashed in immediately, I hammered the over in the Saints 49ers game. I think it was 44 points. It made no sense to me. It covered with 5 minutes left in the second quarter. That was easy. Nice little profit there. I also predicted that Devontae Freeman and Brian Hill would both find the end zone for Atlanta. I don't know why I said that to begin with. I thought I blacked out, but they both found the end zone in a win over Carolina. And as I told everyone, expect the Vikings and the Lions game to hit the under, and it did just that. I did have a couple misses, though. Obviously, my best bet, the Texans game, a bust. And also the afternoon games just killed me. A trio of games I had on the money line. I had New England, Jacksonville, and Oakland to win, and all three lost, and they all lost badly. So I'm looking to bounce back this week, but I want to hear your best bet of the week first. What do you got for Week 15?
I'm just going to throw in one little gloat thing here as well. You weren't too sure on it. I went with the over in the Cleveland and the Bengals tilt there. Oh, yeah.
I said I wasn't going to watch that game.
Yeah, well, I guess so. You were right with your prediction there.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive right into it. Let's get this moving here. My best bet of this week. Now, I originally took Baltimore, and like we have a Google Doc going here, and you can always see when it's getting changed up. My best bet changed frequently. I originally went with Baltimore. There's a question out there because he missed on Monday that Lamar Jackson may not be ready with the short week here, so I immediately jumped off the Baltimore bandwagon. However, pay attention to that close to kickoff. If he gets back into the lineup and you got a tall or tiny spread,
you
jump
can't
on it.
Retroactively gloat if he does win.
I'm just throwing that out for advice for the betting public. I then took Seattle. Playing Carolina, that should be a lock. No, I got scared of that one. Oakland, however, is playing their very last game in the dump, also known as the Coliseum. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. I feel like they're going to go out with a bang. They are favored by 6 points over the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just took a licking and a kicking from the Chargers this past week. So, yeah, I'm jumping on the Oakland bandwagon. They haven't done me well the last couple weeks, mind you, but I think this time around there's just so much to play for. It's the final week of the original black hole. I'm sure it'll move to Las Vegas, but the original black hole, they all get in their Halloween costumes and jump around. And this is the final week of it. So get ready. It's going to be a great game in Oakland.
I'm very excited for that one. I'll break it down once I get to that Oakland game, but I'm going completely opposite of you. That's a little tease for later on. So enjoy that best bet. I'm very excited.
Give it up.
My best bet of the week is the Packers to cover the 4.5-point spread facing the Bears. Sure, Green Bay is my favorite team, so there's a little bit of favoritism here, but I swear I'm not playing favorites for this one. It's Lambeau. It's freezing weather. The temperatures are going to be well below zero. It is the ideal situation for Aaron Rodgers. And with the Vikings already looking like a sure thing against the Chargers this week, Green Bay needs the win in a tight divisional race. So I am taking the Packers and the points as my best bet of the week. Now, before we get our predictions for week 15, every single week we want to hear from you, the viewers, the listeners. Give us your wild predictions for week 15, and we will discuss it at the top of next week's show. Looking back at last week, we had a couple of people calling some big predictions. Glenn Anderson, no relation to the Oilers star from the 80s. He called the Chargers win over Jacksonville, saying the only way the Jags win is if they build an early lead, and that definitely did not happen. Well, Niners by Nature on YouTube called a 49ers blowout win. We'll give you half points there. I mean, they got the win. Not really a blowout.
Didn't beat the spread.
But it was a great game. And then Kyle Richardson predicting Ryan Tannehill would guide the Titans to a big road win over the Raiders, and he absolutely nailed that one. So again, hit us up with your comments on YouTube, on WSN.com, and we will discuss them in next week's episode. Also on WSN.com for our listeners living in New Jersey or West Virginia, head to that website. You got special bonuses and deals if you want to bet on this week's games. They compare the best legal online sports books to get exclusive offers when you sign up and you start betting. So with all that out of the way, Ryan, let's get into week 15 and the Thursday nighter. You just mentioned it, the Baltimore game. The New York Jets at Baltimore. The Ravens favored by 15.5 points. The over-under at 45. One of the biggest spreads we've seen this season. And honestly, it's probably justified. Like, it's a Super Bowl contender versus the Jets. Right?
Yes.
Like, New York might have kept Miami out of the end zone on Sunday. I don't think that's the case this Thursday. They're traveling on a short week. It spells disaster for Sam Darnold and his crew. Look, you know me, I do not like to put stock in a double-digit spread, especially this big, but I think you kind of have to take Baltimore in the points, even with Lamar Jackson dealing with a bit of a quad issue. I think he has no problem against a weak Jets secondary. I am a little bit concerned about the Jets defensive line. It is sneaky good, and his mobility with that quad not being at 100%. So I will be staying away from my go-to prop bet of taking the over on Lamar Jackson rush yards. I'm leaving that one alone. Instead, I'm going to look for value plays in his receiving core. Willie Snead, a lock for the over on receiving yards. Hollywood Brown, a bit of a boom or bust player, but I like him for a lengthy touchdown this week, and it might be a great chance to showcase his speed. So there you go. Ravens on the spread.
I like it. No, I support your picks. I'm behind you all the way here. I think either way. I mean, obviously a money line, this is an easy pick. But whether it's Lamar Jackson, whether it's Robert Griffin III, it could be Hayden Hurst under center, and they are still going to be winning this football game. However, with that said, pay close attention. I wouldn't say jump on this right away, early week. Right before kickoff Thursday, maybe, mid-afternoon Thursday, that's when you want to take a look at this spread again. Because if it is RG3 under center, that spread's got to change. I don't feel confident in them winning by 15.5 with an RG3 or somebody else down the depth chart. A Lamar Jackson in there, absolutely no problem. Ravens win, Ravens cover, but pay attention. There's an asterisk on that spread, and it will change depending on who's under center.
Very well said. All right, that's the Thursday game, which brings us to the Sunday slate of games. And our first one we'll discuss Chicago at Green Bay. The Packers favored by 4.5 points. The over-under, 41. Ryan, what do you make of it?
Well, was it wise to jump on the Pack last week? Yes, it was. They won. Was it wise to jump on that spread? No, it wasn't. It was a huge spread, and you peer pressured me into it, and I have not forgiven you. However, this time around, it's a little lighter, a lot more digestible, 4.5 points, as you said. We've now seen back-to-back games with Mitch Trubisky, showing that he might actually belong in the National Football League, which is nice to see. But is that enough to turn the tides? I'm not so sure. They've beaten the Giants, Detroit, and the fading Cowboys in that stretch where Mitch has shown his true colors. I'm not ready to close the book on the Packers here. And as you mentioned right off the top, they have a lot to play for this week. And with a spread that's that minimal, how can you not go with the Pack? I'm taking Green Bay to win. I'm taking Green Bay to cover. And I support your best bet bid.
All right. Yeah, you pretty much hit all the points I wanted to discuss. I mean, I was getting a little close to sounding the panic alarm for the Packers. They're leading the division, but like, when's the last time you felt confident? Like, that's a resounding win for Green Bay. Like, they didn't look sharp on the weekend. They allowed Washington to linger around for way too long. They build a lead and then they just sit on it instead of putting their opponents away, which is what they need to do this week. It's a great chance for Aaron Rodgers. As I mentioned, he loves the cold weather. He loves playing the Bears. The Cheeseheads have won 6 of the last 7 meetings in this divisional contest, and he loves playing at Lambeau, where he's won 6 of his last 7. So, with the potential for wintry weather in Green Bay, even if the snow holds off, the temperature is well below the freezing mark. That's great news for Aaron Jones because they're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball hard, and Green Bay has to win this game with the charging Vikings. So I think they cruise to a win. I think they cover on Sunday, and that is my best bet of the week.
Very nice. Very nice.
Next game, a little bit less interesting, at least in my opinion. New England at Cincinnati. The Pats favored by 9.5. The over-under is 40.5, and like, when's the last time the Pats lost 2 in a row? But that's where we stand right now. They've lost 2 in a row. They're finally on the receiving end of some brutal reffing, and it likely cost them a victory against the Chiefs on Sunday. This week, I think a bounce-back effort is in store. I think they win the game. I'm going to pump the brakes just a touch, just a little caution on them covering the spread. Like, clearly, New England's not firing in all cylinders. If they do cover, it's because they hit the ground hard. The Bengals have the worst run defense in the league. Nick Chubb exposing it on Sunday. I believe you were all over that prop pick. Their pass defense is actually not too bad for like a 1-11 team, showing a lot of improvement over the last 3 weeks. So I'm going to take a peek at the props for the Pats runners. That's a lot of P's in there, especially Sony Michel, who is due for a bounce-back effort. So if you're looking for a player, daily fantasy, Sony Michel's the way to go in this game.
If there's one thing you need to know about Sullivans, it's that we are conspiracy theorists. Nah, not so much the generation that is me, my folks, the grandparents. Yeah, they love their conspiracies.
You too.
I like a couple. But the big one here, we were talking about asterisks before. Maybe put an asterisk on this one. The New England Patriots caught filming the Cincinnati Bengals sideline.
No, it was a scouting documentary.
Yeah, it's a Doug. Why do you have to film the Bengals play calls of all teams? Come on now. So it's an interesting strategy. We'll see how it plays out for him, Cotton. But no, I still like the Bengals. It doesn't matter what they're filming. It doesn't matter what they're watching. If this is happening, I should throw in about 6 or 7 allegedlys into that sentence. But nonetheless, the Patriots, like you say, they are due for a breakout game to break this cold snap that they're going through right now. And what better team to do it against than the Cincinnati Bengals? Whether they have Andy Dalton under center, whether it's Ryan Finley, doesn't matter. They're still a very weak bunch across the board. 2 cheap daily fantasy options here: Jacoby Myers and N'Keal Harry. Harry, like we touched on there, almost scoring the touchdown. Like you say, they probably would have won the game had he got in there. Pretty clearly was a touchdown. But nonetheless, in real time, it could be hard to call. But nonetheless, if you're looking to make a few extra bucks on the side, I think those are 2 solid picks right there. Also, if you can find a prop on an Andy Dalton pick, you know that's happening, so by all means jump on that. But no, Pats to win, Pats to cover, it's a safe bet.
All right, head to WSN.com. Tons of betting guides for beginners and anyone really wanting to learn more about strategy and how sports betting works, which brings us to our next game on the Sunday slate. Ryan, what do you got for us?
We have Seattle at Carolina. Seahawks are favored by 6. The over-under set at 48.5. Carolina's season officially over as they've been eliminated from playoff contention this past week. That is happening. It has also come out that they are going to shop Cam Newton for a hefty package. Whether they get that hefty return or not, we'll see. However, with that said, there's been no word that they're looking to keep Kyle Allen in there. So with that, you'd have to think that this guy is going to showcase his skill set. You'd have to think he's going to come out of the gates flying. He's only got a few more games to try not to carry a clipboard, or even worse, next season, sit up in the press box potentially. So I like that. I think that'll give him a little extra boom and right out of the gates. And, of course, run CMC. You really can't go against Christian McCaffrey. But at the same time, Seattle losing on the road to the Rams last week, I mean, that's going to cut them hard. I see them coming out and absolutely dominating this game. They want home field advantage. They need to get back into the mix. They want to win that division. And now they've fallen behind. They went from 1st in the conference to 5th now in the wild card seeding. So I'm taking Seattle to win. However, I am taking Carolina to cover because I think they'll have a little extra boom, a little extra juice in the step.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't want to put you on the spotlight here because I don't know the answer either, so I'm going to put that out there. Do you know who Carolina coach is right now? Exactly, and that is why I'm taking Seattle to cover.
Fair.
Like, Ron Rivera's gone. They packed this season in. They're just looking. They're already planning what they want to try and get for Cam Newton. It's over. I actually thought this spread would be a lot higher. Carolina is not a good team. Obviously, a cross-country flight doesn't really play in the favor of the Seahawks, but they're going to be fired up. And Carolina, no-show effort. I mean, Russell Wilson's already tweeting inspirational quotes from his Twitter account. He wants to win. He's fired up. He loves to lead, hates to lose. And it's pretty much, as you mentioned, near must-win territory for Seattle in order to keep pace with the 49ers in the divisional race. Losing Rashad Penny for the season with that torn ACL is a bit of a stinger because that means you have to put that much more trust in Carson and his fumbleitis. But I think Wilson and his receivers have a chance to shine. Panthers gave up 300 yards in the air on Sunday with their season on the line against a non-playoff team. So I think the Seabirds will be giddy to toss the ball up, see what happens. I predict a big day for DK Metcalf, and I think Seattle gets the win and the cover.
Perry Fewell.
That's a made-up name.
Or Fuel. I don't know. Fewell. I think it's Fewell. I'm going to go with Fewell.
Okay.
Yeah. You won't need to know the name for long, but there it is. Perry Fewell.
Perry Fewell.
Moving on.
Oh, those poor Carolina Panthers. It was so good for so long.
Yeah.
But
it really was.
Riverboat Ron, he's gone. Let's move along to our next game. We got Houston at Tennessee. The Titans favored by 3 points. The over-under at 50. And man, I jumped off the Titans bandwagon last week, and I'm kicking myself ever since. I just don't know why I cannot bring myself to buy into the hype. It makes no sense, but week after week, they're impressing. As for the Texans, they burned me last week, clearly forgetting what time kickoff was because they didn't even bother to show up until the fourth quarter. It was a disaster. All that being said, I am sticking to my stubbornness on this one. The Adam Forsyth trait of stubbornness. I think with first in the AFC South on the line, I think the Texans have a rebound effort. A team with that much skill does not get embarrassed in back-to-back weeks. They have a D-line to contain the red-hot Derrick Henry, while Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins finally clicking. They got on the same page. I think they find the end zone on Sunday. I like the Texas team to pull off the upset in the country music capital, and the trends are backing me up too. Houston has won 12 of the last 14 games against Tennessee against the spread, and they've downed their divisional foes in 10 of the last 14 games straight up.
See, I can appreciate how you're going deep on those analytics there, but at the same time, in those last 12 or 14 games, they were playing Marcus Mariota, who just never came out with his A game. Now you've got the reborn Ryan Tannehill, Redemption City, and this guy is tearing up the league right now. One of the hottest, if not the hottest quarterback over the past few games, and he's turned me. We've been teasing it every single week. I don't know if we should trust Ryan Tannehill. I trust the man. I'm laying my trust in a fellow Ryan, and I'm hoping he can bring me to the promised land here because I'm going with Tennessee and the points. I'm kind of like you a little bit. I'm a little bitter on Houston. They show us all what they're made of. They beat the all-powerful New England Patriots, and then the following week they just lay down an absolute stinker on the Denver Broncos. And his second game in the NFL, Drew Lock dominates this team where Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, couldn't do it. It's just, I'm sick of guessing what team's going to show up. I know what team's going to show up out of the Tennessee Titans, the same that have been tearing up the league for the last few games. I'm going with Tannehill, going with the Titans and the points.
Fair enough. All right, head to WSN.com for expert online sportsbook reviews. Let you compare all the best legal sports betting websites available in the United States. We have a thriller for our next game, Ryan.
Do we ever? Miami at the New York Giants.
Whoa!
Giants favored by 3, over-under set at 48. I don't know who's setting these over-unders, but that's a hefty one. How does a road team not have to travel? It's when they play the Jets, sleep at MetLife, and then play the Giants the following week. That's what's going on with the Dolphins. They lost by 1 last week to the Jets, and now they're taking on Eli Manning and the Giants, and if you watch that Monday Nighter with the Giants and Philly, you know that he has one great first half in him, no problem. Second half, well, that's a different story. Anyhow, I was touching on the over-under there and how ridiculous that is. I love the under in this game. After watching all that Eli Manning can do, I mean, unfortunately he didn't get on the field in overtime, mind you, but This guy could not throw more than 15 yards. At the start of the game, in the first quarter, he had some zip on his passes. It was nice to see, but that faded very quickly. I can see this guy just going for 5, 10-yard checkdowns with Golden Tate, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard. So if you have these guys in a PPR league, you're going to be laughing because they're going to be loading up the stats. Saquon, of course, will get some touches. I like Saquon actually so much going over 120 total scrimmage yards. If you can find that prop, I've seen it out there. I've seen the last few weeks over 120 total scrimmage yards to Saquon because he'll be getting a ton of screen passes in this game. Anyway, I like my props. I like my under. I do not like the game or the score one bit. Not even going to touch it. But the props in the under, book it.
And Saquon. All right. I like it, but I don't like this game. In fact, it's the new feature on WSN. I call it the yucky game of the week.
That's going to catch on.
It's yucky. It's trending across the world. Nothing good can come from this game. Like, I know you're all like yelling at your screens right now, but Adam, last week, Miami, you missed 7 field goals from Jason Sanders. It was amazing. You know what? No, I said I wasn't going to watch the game, and I didn't watch it, and I don't regret it. I won't regret missing this one either. I'm actually heading to Mexico this weekend with my girlfriend. Can you imagine the conversation I'll have to have telling her, hey, babe, I'm sorry. We got to leave the beach. We got to go back to the room. I have to watch this thriller between the Dolphins and the Giants. Thank you for understanding, WSN listeners and viewers. I'm abstaining from this game. Hands clean of it. I don't regret it. My bosses might be bad. I don't care. Enjoy the misery.
It's an awful matchup. Yes, you're not wrong.
I'm going to be working on my tan.
You got fish tacos and Coronas and tequila going on. Yeah, you're happy.
Now, this game I will be kind of checking in on the bar because I am interested in this one. There's some good stuff out there. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia at Washington. The Eagles are favored by 6 points. The over-under 40.5 points. Stretch of the season where it should have been gift wrap for the Eagles, the Giants and the Redskins on back-to-back weeks, yet Philly somehow making it nearly impossible to make the playoffs. It's a joke. An OT win of the Giants that, like, what they had to do to get back in that game was so frustrating. And the injuries to the offense continuing to mount by the minute. You hear that? Another player just got hurt.
Oh, no.
I don't know who he is, but he just got hurt. They're now down to like their 17th receiver.
It sounded like an ACL.
There was a pop. It was a pop. But as much as you want to like poke fun at Carson Wentz, it's not his fault. He's a new receiver every week. Washington is a train wreck though. So 2 bad teams, only one team can win. So I'll take the Eagles to win and cover. And because it is his only option as a decent target, I'm targeting the over on Zach Ertz receptions and receiving yards.
That's well played. That's not bad at all. The Eagles pulled one out last week. It was an ugly one. Yes, they beat the second-string quarterback Giants, but really, I don't know if they would have won that game if there weren't for some bonehead penalties on the Giants in the secondary. It was absolutely brutal. They kept giving them second life all the time. Nonetheless, you don't have to be great. You don't have to have all your pieces together to beat the Washington Redskins, as we've seen. So right now, Philly, they are in charge of their playoff destiny. It sits well within their palms. They just need to win out, and they are in the postseason. And this one's a gimme. Obviously, next week against the Dallas Cowboys, that's the big one. This is the gimme. You have to win this. Winning by 6, I think they can pull that off no problem. On Monday night, I saw a prop up for Boston Scott to pay 14-1 to go over 60 scrimmage yards. I wish I jumped all over that. Who'd have thought that he'd have tore it up? But if you can find something along those lines again for Boston Scott, absolutely, because he made a name for himself on Monday Night Football. Eagles to win, Eagles to cover. I also like the under in this game as well. Just going to pepper that in and a little Boston Scott action. And there you go. You got yourself a fine-looking Sunday.
You got yourself a stew.
You really do.
All right, let's go with our next game on the Sunday early slate. It is Denver at Kansas City. It is a double-digit spread. The Chiefs favored by 10 points. The over-under, 45.5.
Yeah, the Denver Broncos are a great story right now. This is the first time in a long time people in Denver have been excited about football. Drew Lock's bringing them back to their TV sets. Every 10 minutes, somebody is coming up with a new, I don't know if you've noticed this, but obscure Broncos rookie QB Super Bowl era stat for Drew Lock, and it's extremely annoying. I think all of that comes to an end this weekend when finally the Broncos are put back in their place. The Chiefs are going to be in the AFC Championship this year. They are a solid bunch. They are a great team. I'm taking them to win. I'm taking them on the money, but I also like the over in this game as well. Just set at 45.5. That's not really that huge. Denver put up a ton of points last weekend. I don't think they're going to have the exact same performance, but at least we've seen that Drew Lock can find the end zone here and there, which is something we haven't said about the Broncos in a long time. But Kansas City as well, I can see them going at least over 30 in this game. So take the over. I like the Chiefs on the money. It is a big spread, so it's questionable, but easily on the money. And there you go. That's where I'm jumping on.
All right, I absolutely agree with you here, Ryan. Denver, they might actually have something cooking with Drew Lock. One of those stats I noticed, when he drops back into the pocket and blinks twice, he has a 75% completion rate, higher than any quarterback in history.
I saw the infographic for that.
It was amazing. Two
Very
blinks.
Well done.
It's a bold move.
Yeah, very well done.
Completely made that up. But Broncos actually kind of building a little bit of momentum. Unfortunately, they got to deal with Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs for this one. My first go-to in this game is the over, much like Ryan here. The conditions in KC ideal for scoring. Both teams have offenses that will do just that. As for the spread, like Ryan, a little bit too big for my liking. The Broncos are 5-1 against the spread over their last 6, 4-1 against the spread over the last 5 on the road. It has the makings of a great game if Denver gets off to a great start. If not, Mahomes and company might run away with this one early. I'm actually feeling pretty good about Mahomes' mobility on this one too. I will roll the dice, and I like him to score a rushing touchdown. So the spread, not really my style. I like the over, and why don't you throw a little Mahomes rushing touchdown in there for goodness.
Nice. Nicely done.
All right, next game, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Detroit Lions. The Buccaneers favored by 3.5 points. The over-under set at 47.5. Not much on the line for these two teams. Like, their playoff hopes long gone. I guess they're playing for their jobs. Like, there's not much to cheer for. I'm going to keep cheering for Jameis Winston, though. This guy is entertaining.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot on the line for him. The guy's a human highlight reel, but like in a very good and bad sense. He's on pace to become the first quarterback in NFL history to throw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in one season.
30 for 30.
30 for 30. He's going to get his own 30 for 30 based on these performances. It's honestly hilarious at the point. Like, I have no stake in the game, but I can only imagine the stress of being a Bucs fan. Like, all right, great pass. No, there's an interception. Great touch. Oh, no, there's an interception. That all being said, at least they're not the Lions. Like, Tampa Bay should win this game, but the Lions play Tampa Bay well, covering the spread in 10 of the last 12 games. That trend scares me a little bit. So instead, I'll take the over. It's hit in 10 of the last 11 Bucs games, 5 straight Lions games at home. And I also, it's going to be expensive. It'll cost you a lot on daily fantasy. But Chris Godwin and Kenny Golladay, strong contenders to have massive days and find the end zone. So I think it's a high-scoring game, and those two go off.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, we've been absolutely killing it with Tampa Bay taking the over this season. I mean, Jameis Winston, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of good and there's also a lot of bad coming out of this guy. And he's totally playing for a job next season, really. And what's really just unfortunate, and I don't love all the hate that he gets because he is a quality quarterback. He's just not always an accurate quarterback, and that's what obviously kills him. But this guy's gone over 400 yards multiple times this season. He's got a lot of talent. He's got, great mobility. It's just the accuracy that kills him. And the problem is that it's amplified so much because his defense is so terrible that every time there is an interception, they have to pay for it. If the defense could stand up, nobody would be really remembering all these picks all the time. Anyway, nonetheless, that's just a side rant. But first and foremost, take the over in this game. You called it. It's gone over in 10 of their last 11. I like Tampa Bay to win. I like Tampa Bay to cover. And even potentially without Mike Evans in the lineup, I think they still get the job done. You made a great call. I mean, throwing on Chris Godwin.
I'll even throw in the breaking news update. As we went to air, Evans is done for the season.
It is it's over, eh? It's done.
It's over. So load up on Godwin.
Fair enough.
And then you had another one you were looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin Watson. This guy's called up. He's going to be in 3 wide sets. He's going to be a very cheap fantasy play. And you've seen Jameis. He likes to go deep every now and then. This guy could see a lot of leather on Sunday.
All right, we have reached the Sunday afternoon slate of games, and we start off with Cleveland at Arizona. The Browns favored by 2.5. The over-under, 47.5. And Ryan, I can tell you don't like this one.
I'm very excited about this game. I want to watch this game about as badly as Odell Beckham Jr. wants to stay in Cleveland. That's about how devoted I am to this one. The Browns are favored. The Browns have a very slim playoff chance. And I've just thrown in the towel on Arizona. I mean, if you can't put up a better fight against Pittsburgh and their third stringer at home, I'm done with them. I've banked on Arizona a few times on this show, and I've been bitten every single time. I won't do it again. Cleveland to win, Cleveland to cover. Arizona, you are a very exciting football team. I wish you nothing but the best. Hopefully next season you get back into the mix in that division a little bit. But I am done with you this season. I'm signing off on the Cardinals.
All right. Well, you got poor decision making. You got questionable throws. You got inept play calling and a poor offensive line. Am I talking about Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray?
I don't know.
It's a trick. Either way. It is both.
Yeah.
Both young quarterbacks, like, they showed glimpses of star potential early in the season, and just over the last month, they faded. They're showing their fatigue. As you mentioned, Odell wants out, and you can't really blame him. Like, every week, he just doesn't see red zone targets. Despite Mayfield's struggles and Beckham complaining, the Browns have actually used a soft schedule to win 4 of the last 5 games. They could very easily earn another victory this weekend. I just don't feel comfortable going one way or the other. So it is a stay away game for me. Now, if you got the itch for punishment and you got to put something on this one, you may as well throw a prop bet. Christian Kirk has been very reliable this season. He was great on Sunday, and I think he hits the over on receiving yards.
That's a good play.
That's pretty much all I got for that one. That was a close runner-up to the yucky game of the week.
It's a dumpster fire. Yeah.
Trending across the world. This game, actually, I'm very excited for. This is Ryan's best bet game. Jacksonville at Oakland. The Raiders favored by 6 points. The over-under at 45.5. And before Ryan tells you why it's his best bet, let me tell you why it should not be. 2 teams that let me down last week. Brutal performances, just ugly start to finish. The Raiders getting exposed with Josh Jacobs not in the lineup. He's still banged up. Even if he plays, clearly will not be at 100%. On the other side of the ball, Oakland just can't defend the pass, and it's getting worse every week. Even with Gardner Minshew under center, I think the Jags exposed the Raiders' disastrous secondary, and with DJ Shark not likely to play, it looks like he's out. I think it's a huge day for D.D. Westbrook. I'm scooping him up in every single daily fantasy I can get. The overs on receptions, overs on receiving yards. As to the game itself, I just don't like it. I think Jacksonville covers the spread. The winner of the game, it's up in the air.
And that's why I've taken Seattle with my best bet. No, I'm sticking to my guns here. Last I checked as well, I'm not the only one. 72% of people are taking Oakland and 6-point spread in the consensus right now. The Raiders are 7-3 against the spread in their last 10 at home. And guess what? This is their last ever home game in Oakland. So that's why they're playing for so much more, even though they're actually probably playing for nothing. They have a very slim chance, but they're playing for absolutely nothing here. Who are we kidding? But to the good people of Oakland, you know, your basketball team left. They went across the bridge. You've still got the A's. Yeah, they don't do much over there. And now you're losing your football team. It's just a very sorry state of affairs for the city of Oakland. They need something. They need something huge. And I think that Derek Carr will just come through for the boys in black. I'm pulling for him. You got this, buddy. You got this. Oakland to win, Oakland to cover. Lock it in.
Even if Jacobs doesn't play.
Yeah. That's okay. That's all right.
You know what? Hey, egg on my face if you're right. I hope you are.
I believe in Waller. All right?
I believe in D.D. Westbrook. I cannot tell this is my prop pick of the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what, though? You go to WSN.com. You got real money daily fantasy sports. They're a great option for people living in a state where traditional sports betting is not legal. All you got to do is head to WSN.com. They can set you up with links to both DraftKings and FanDuel. Afternoon Sunday games continuing. What do we got?
We have Minnesota at the LA Chargers. Vikings favored by 2.5. The over-under set at 44.5. And who are we kidding? This probably will be a home game for Minnesota as well. The stadium, Dignity Health, will be jam-packed, chock-a-blocked, full of purple jerseys, I'm sure. And I called this a couple weeks ago, all right? After all of the Phillip Rivers brutal performances, if he comes back and has a game, they're going to talk about his Hall of Fame induction and how amazing he is. And that's exactly what they did at the Jacksonville game. It was brutal. It was absolutely ridiculous. I shouldn't sound like such a negative guy. I should reel it back a little bit. Phillip had a good game, but it's all done in garbage time. It drives me nuts. Nonetheless, I see the Vikings absolutely dominating this game. I'd like to say that the Chargers are, playing for something here, but clearly they're not. At this point, I think they're just going for draft position, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody from the top says, hey, let's go easy on Phil. If the Vikings get up by a little too much, let's get Tyrod into the game. He came in a little bit last week, which was great to see. I'm taking the Vikes to win. I'm taking the Vikes to cover.
All right. I'm going to float my theory to you that you go against the Chargers each week as some sort of like reverse jinx for your favorite team. Like, if I...
You never lose.
You can't get hurt. That's what I find.
That's because as a Chargers fan, I've been hurt so much. Now I'm just immune to it.
Look, I shouldn't have followed you down that path last week, but this week I have to agree with you. Even though this is a home game for the Chargers, as you mentioned, the Vikings faithful will flood LA. They're going to take over that stadium this weekend. I mean, Jags defense last week versus the Vikings defense this week, it is not even comparable. It's going to cause headaches for Phillip Rivers. This game problematic for me because I need a huge day from Austin Eckler to keep my fantasy football season alive, and I feel that's probably not in the cards. So I'll have to drown my sorrows in a prop bet win elsewhere. I'm taking Dalvin Cook on the over for rushing yards, and we can celebrate together next week.
And I love throwing in these trends and consensus. Right now, 71% of people are going with Minnesota in this game as well at that spread.
It makes sense.
There you go.
All right, our next game is a very intriguing game. LA Rams at the Dallas Cowboys, and this game is a pick'em. The over-under 48 points, a tale of two teams trending in different directions. The Rams feeling it after ramming their way to a win over Seattle, while the Cowboys are imploding. Jerry Jones giving a press conference with like alarming frequency, like every day. Like what is happening? And he's never even saying anything of note. But as the odds makers have laid out, it is truly a pick'em game. The Rams crossing the country on short rest. Otherwise, I would not hesitate to grab them on the money line. But back in Texas, where Dallas plays a lot better, I think the Cowboys, they have to stop the bleeding at some point and turn things around, especially with the Eagles breathing down their neck for the division title. I don't know if it'll be a great game, but it will be a close game. I would take a closer peek at the under, too. It's hit in 7 of the Rams' last 8 games and 4 of the last 5 Cowboys games when they host the Rams. So, again, it is truly a pick'em. I can't convince you one way or the other, but I think I'm going to go on the under for this one.
Yeah, that's fair. And, I mean, to your point, I mean, the Cowboys have not shown that they are that strong and that able to put up huge scoreboards this season, especially the latter half of this season as well. They've looked absolutely brutal. But with that said, and like you touched on, at home, it's a bit of a different story. And same can be said for really any team in the NFL aside from the Chargers. But when you're playing at home, there's just an extra kick in the pants. And that's exactly what Dak Prescott needs right now. This guy was talking about bringing in big money this coming offseason. Well, if he wants that big paycheck, he's going to have to step it up. The Cowboys right now, also, if they can win out, they're in control of their own playoff destiny as well. So this game obviously goes a huge, huge long way. And at the end of the day, when the Cowboys are on, I think they've got a better QB. I think they got a better running back. And when the defense is playing at their best, I think they got a better back end as well. So I'm taking the Cowboys to win. That is my pick. And I feel confident on that as well. I mean, I know it's a pick 'em, it's a toss-up. But, yeah, I feel like Dallas at home, this is when they snap the streak and they turn things around.
Very well said, buddy. You convinced me. I'll hop on the bandwagon.
Well, thank you.
Let's do it.
There we go.
I took you down the wrong path last week, and I'll gladly follow you down the wrong one this week.
Sounds good.
All right, for our next game, it is the final game on the Sunday afternoon slate. It is Atlanta at San Francisco. 49ers favored by 11, the over-under at 47.
Yes, without Calvin Ridley for the year, also quite official, the Falcons will be without one of their biggest pieces to that huge puzzle. And the last few weeks as well, Calvin Ridley's been tearing it up for them, so it's unfortunate timing for him. Julio probably going to see triple coverage now at this point. Keep an eye out, a great DFS option, Austin Hooper, especially if they can make it into the red zone. This guy's going to come in handy big time. And I know, speaking of your fantasy football team, you've been paying off for quite a while on Hooper. I mean, I know these last few weeks, coming back from injury and whatnot, not the greatest. But early on this season, he was one of the best tight ends in the game. So they're going to need him to step it up again. The Niners, though, on an absolute tear. They're a solid football team. I see them absolutely trouncing Matt Ryan and the Falcons. If you can find a defensive prop for 5 sacks or more on Matt Ryan, play that. Jump all over that with everything you have. Bet the bank. But while you're at it, of course, take the 49ers to win. And even though it's a big one, it's an 11-point spread, take the 49ers to cover at the Denim Den because I see them zipping up a victory on Sunday. If I didn't chew on my words, it would have been a great pun.
It would have been great. I'm going to Levi behind this conversation, and that was just as bad.
No, that was gorgeous. That was nice.
After playing the game of the year against the Saints, the 49ers, they get a nice break. They're facing a Falcons team simply playing out the stretch. As you mentioned, no Calvin Ridley for this one. That's a huge blow because, as you mentioned, again, San Fran can double, triple team Julio Jones. If they can keep him quiet, I think it's an easy win for the California club. And Atlanta has a really tough time in the Bay Area. They've lost 12 of their last 14 games in San Fran. I think that trend continues. I think the 49ers cover the spread, and this potentially it could be a massive day for Jimmy Garoppolo and his receiving core. It just sets up so well, especially Emmanuel Sanders. he might be like the in-season addition of the year around the NFL. I love the overs on receiving yards and passing yards for the duo. I think you should as well, and you'll be thanking me later. It's all 49ers for this one.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
Well, thank you.
I'll be thanking you right now.
All right, we got a couple more games. We got the Sunday night game. This was flexed into the Sunday night game. So the NFL is clearly like, hey, fans want this one. I don't see it quite that way, but here we go. Buffalo at Pittsburgh. The Steelers favored by 2. The over-under 36.5 points. So clearly the odds makers think this will be a defensive struggle as well. I said it last week. I said it the week before. I just don't know how the Steelers are doing it. Like injuries galore to key players, quarterback, running back, receivers. Yeah, Mike Tomlin somehow getting the most out of his spare parts. He's keeping his team in the playoff hunt, and full credit to him and to the team. But like this is their first real test in a few weeks. They've had a really easy schedule. The Bills making things tough for the Ravens and limiting Lamar Jackson last week. So going from like an MVP candidate at the quarterback position to a guy named Duck playing quarterback, Buffalo's probably itching to get this game started. Like, can we just kick off already? I don't know why the Steelers are the favorites. I'm taking Buffalo all day. Now, fair warning, the trends are against me on this one, and you know I love my trends, Ryan. The Steelers have defeated the Bills in the last 5 meetings in the Steel City, and they've covered the spread in those as well. So as much as I'm all aboard Buffalo's bandwagon, the Steeler, history's not on my side.
That's fair, and I echo everything you just threw out there. All the compliments to Mike Tomlin. He's put together a hell of a record considering he has not had the pieces whatsoever on both sides of the ball, obviously primarily on the offensive side. But when it comes down to it, the Bills are the better football team by a landslide heading into this game. They lost to the best team in the AFC last week by a touchdown. And they should have lost by a lot more. They did not play well in that game, but they still made it pretty close, narrowly losing that one. So nonetheless, I like them heading into to Steeltown here. They're 4-0-1 in their last 5 as a road underdog, and 6-0-1 in their last 7 on the road against the spread. Buffalo to win, Buffalo to cover. And, if you rewind these WSN podcasts, you hear me talking about Josh Allen all the time. I said he was going to be great. And he's on the cusp of something special. That whole team is on the cusp of something special.
You also were every single week all over Cole Beasley, and he found the end zone again on Sunday. That's right. Been like...
Don't call me Pam. Absolutely.
That has single-handedly paid for all my fantasy football failures this season. Thank you, Cole. We got one more game to go. It's the Monday Nighter. It is the Indianapolis Colts taking on the New Orleans Saints. The Saints favored by 9. The over-under 45.5 points. Ryan, what do you got?
We've given the Colts a lot of love on this show. We've given Jacoby Brissett a lot of love on this show, but I think it's time to finally admit to ourselves and to the viewing public they're on a downward spiral. And we have noticed. We have taken notice of this downward spiral.
That's how upset you are.
Yeah, it hasn't really locked in week after week, so we keep hoping for the best. Vintage Jacoby out there, but we're not seeing it. Can we say vintage Jacoby? He's only had a few seasons as a starter nonetheless. The Saints finally woke up last week with a huge performance. Drew Brees was excellent. Michael Thomas, again, fantastic. Just in time because they did nothing the week before, and had I won that week, I would have been in the fantasy playoffs, and then they, of course, started dominating. But nonetheless, I'm not bitter. I am stoked because I'm taking the Saints in this game. I'm taking Michael Thomas once again on a prop to take home over 100 yards receiving. Take Drew Brees to connect on 2 or more touchdowns, no problem. Take the Saints to win on the money. Take the Saints to win on the spread. This game just has gold and black written all over it.
Completely agree. Even though they lost that thriller to San Fran, the Saints offense, it is rounding in form at the perfect time. I fear the Saints offense at home, and so should the Colts. This was nearly my best bet of the week. The Saints should easily put up 30 points. I also really like the over in this one. The Colts are just a different team without T.Y. Hilton, who is out. I just don't think they have the firepower to keep pace with the Saints. Saints are just going to put points on the board. The one thing that's concerning for Saints fans and for daily fantasy plays too is Alvin Kamara. What is his deal? The fact that they put up 40 plus points last week and he had 35 yards total, that's alarming. His second half disappearing act is one of the more shocking storylines around the NFL. But as long as Michael Thomas continues to hold on footballs, collect touchdowns, and they win, Saints fans probably don't care. So I'm with you. I like Thomas to have a big day, Priest to have a big day, Saints to win on the spread.
You fear the Saints offense at home. You know what I fear?
Failure?
Bar peanuts. How long those nuts been sitting out? You don't know.
I have a peanut allergy.
I'm sorry.
So I do fear them.
Well, that's fair. Okay.
You heard our predictions and about our peanut allergies. Now we want to hear yours. Give us your wildest predictions. I'm talking wild, all right? Like, there was a few like, I think San Fran might win. No, I want something obscure like Justin Watson getting a touchdown like Sully called. Give us your wildest ones. We will discuss the top comments on next week's video. Be sure to like and subscribe for weekly NFL predictions on WSN.com. Before we get out of here, we got to recap our best bets of the week. Ryan, what do you got?
I am taking the Oakland Raiders by 6 points over the Jacksonville Jaguars. It is the last game in Oakland. Farewell to a great football city, a great football town, and an absolutely horrifically bad football stadium.
All right, from one
and yourself. I'm sorry.
One absolutely legendary football stadium that is a dump to one of pure beauty, Lambeau Field. My best bet of the week: the Packers to cover at home. It's a 4.5 point spread against the Bears. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be below zero. Perfect Packers football weather. I like them to cover and to get the win. My best bet of the week. So there you go, week 15. That is our predictions. Again, hit us up with yours on YouTube and at WSN.com. We'll discuss them on next week's episode. We will see you then with the week 16 predictions. Enjoy your full NFL slate.